Hey there, and welcome back to Zebra Cult Gaming Oasis, where the palm trees sway because the AC is on, because it's already hot here. I hope the rest of you enjoy Palm Spring, because that ain't the case in the desert. Did you know you can finally purchase Poker Night at the Inventory 1 again? Yeah, thanks to Skunk Ape, who remastered the whole game.
I am in.
Huh? How long was I out?
Now, hopefully if we all purchase it, they'll be able to remaster Poker Night in the Inventory too. But never mind the history lesson, what I want to know is it cult? Poker Night at the Inventory features characters from different franchises taking a night off from their day-to-day to play some high-stakes Texas Hold'em poker. The silliest conversation and hottest poker-playing action. Not only did they write unique dialogue for all of the different characters and their various interactions, they also gave them unique AI programming that determines how they play, bet, fold, or bluff. And while they didn't record any new dialogue, all of the original dialogue has been kept in its uncompressed glory. If for better or for worse. Plus, crossover rewards for TF2 were reinstated. But that's not the focus of the game. This isn't like a modern mobile tie-in game. This is a fun game in its own right. Atypical for crossover games, there's no big to-do with dimensions or any multiversal threat. This is just characters enjoying their time off, and that's it. Which makes it very distinct from every other crossover I can think of. Plus, I have to give credit that, even though this is technically a very simple game, the game will kick you down and steal your money if you try to bluff with a bad hand. But there's no large punishment for losing. It keeps track of your lifetime total, how much you've won or lost, so there's that, but nothing else of note. But as a cult, even without the time that it was gone making the heart grow fonder, I still think this qualifies as a cult classic, simply because it's a very well put together game with deceptive depth to it. But it's also just a poker simulator. If the characters and their conversations aren't your cup of tea, you're not missing much by skipping this one. But I'm doing something more than a review today. You saw the title. You clicked because you want to know what characters I would pick for a potential Poker Night at the Inventory 3. Well, first, some ground rules. 1, we need characters with distinct voices. 2, we need characters with different personalities, specifically lining up with the archetypes of the previous games. So, first, we need an annoying loudmouth. Second, a chaotic wild card. Third, the quiet but intimidating. And fourth, the calm but sarcastic. 3, I am only going to be picking characters that I believe the parent company would let loose. Basically, the bigger the company is, the more we're going to have to pick side characters rather than main characters. 4, they need to canonically have a sense of humor. 5, obviously, we need to pick characters that you could picture actually playing poker. This is admittedly more of a vibes-based judgment call, but hey, it's my list. You wouldn't have clicked on it if you didn't want to know. Since the previous games were a great way to introduce people to more underground independent productions like Strongbad's HomestarRunner.com and the Sam & Max series, we should pick someone from a more modern independent production. Someone who absolutely would play poker and doesn't know when to shut up. Someone to rival even the ego of Claptrap and... Oh, hey Max! Lovely to see you again. Wait, you're taller than I remember. So let me ask you this. You laughing funny bunny? And the award for most punchable at Art Poker Table goes to this guy, Jax from the Amazing Digital Circus. AKA, I have no mouth and I must scream. 90s CGI anime edition. For gameplay, he's gonna be the one trying to raise to bully people off the pot. And since he defaults to a smile, you're not gonna know whether he's bluffing or not. As for conversation, just look at him, listen to him.
It looks like I've taken Ragatha and dropped her in the deep fryer. Democracy sucks.
Do it. Have I ever told you how it's my dream to get eaten by you?
Given that he can break the fourth wall and his personality, he is going to be teasing everyone not just for their quirks, but for their franchises as well. I can just imagine him talking about all of the wild adventures Kane has sent him on. Oh, and since the inventory loves their cosmetics, we would need a cosmetic for the inventory to look like the digital circus, once you get the deck and table for the amazing digital circus. Plus, once you assemble all of those cosmetics, the inventory would absolutely make Jax wear that maid dress again, which would make for a fun reversal as everyone else would have the opportunity to tease him back. Also, characters bring in bounty items when they forget their money at home. For Jax, I could see him either bringing his bowling ball and baseball bat, or maybe for extra trauma, he brings in that snow globe of Kane's last snow adventure that he had with Kaufmo and Ribbit. Also, given how chill Glitch Productions are about their voice actors doing their character voices for various streams and events, I can see them being absolutely chill with a crossover. Even with the finale of The Amazing Digital Circus being unknown at time of recording, I'm certain that wouldn't disqualify Jax from showing up at the table. I mean, really think about it, all of the various universes and franchises that already get a place at the table, from the far-off future, from a cartoony world, from a more grounded world. I'm pretty sure some of these people have died and been resurrected at some point, so that's not stopping them. I imagine Jax would assume either this is another adventure from Kane, or maybe that he jumped from one game in the computer system to another. Next, we need someone to be the wild card, raising randomly to cause confusion. Someone who enjoys gambling and being a troll. Someone from a popular video game franchise. Someone to make you go, wait, what? How about an attractive zombie? Given how many attractive ladies the Shantae series boasts, and this ain't even the title character, I'm sure some very unfair assumptions are going to be made in the comments below. But let me explain, before you post your incorrect assumptions about my parentage and preferences. Teachers and lipstick wearers, by the way. Can I see Way Forward being down for a crossover? Absolutely. Can I see them letting their golden girl talk like a salty sailor? No. However, given all of the mischief that Roddy Tops gets into in her own franchise, they would absolutely let her cut loose. Plus, she was a one-time antagonist, wagering information exchange for a race. And if you lose, she gets your brains. So we already know she's into high-stakes gambling. Given how many times she shows up even when the plot doesn't involve her because she decided to just follow them into danger, you could have her show up at the inventory without much explanation. Plus, imagine this cutie in the short shorts places a huge raise on the table, tells you it's okay if you can match it, you can always put your brains on the table, and then steals the pot while claiming she doesn't remember what cards she has. Why are you looking so scared? I love that in her own franchise she already has the gremlin energy, so she throw a wrench into the expectations of the inventory and the players at the table. Roddy Tops, the attractive zombie from the Shantae series, absolutely fills the role of wildcard we need. I would love for other players at the table to be mentioning dumb zombie tropes, then look at her as though they're expecting her to be angry or offended about it, but no, free paycheck for her, an easy way to make money, plus she gets whatever ruined clothing they made her wear, so which she can then sell as video game adjacent merch, so she's happy and thriving. I would love to see that kind of subversion of expectation. For collecting the Shantae deck and table, you should make the inventory look like the traveling caravan that Roddy Tops hangs out with her zombie brethren. And since we made Jax wear the maid dress, let's go all in. Let's have her wear the golden bikini from Tan Line Island. Oh yeah, this video is getting demonetized. I would love it just for the funny contrast where she's acting just as bubbly and free-spirited as ever, as though nothing is different. Plus, it would be fun if other characters had to ask the obvious questions that everybody's always wanted to ask about those costumes. Is it tight? Is it comfortable? How is it holding in place? You can even make a funny joke where she's leaning forward to grab all the chips and then the player and everybody at the table look up at the ceiling. Roddy Tops doesn't get it and then asks them if they're looking for Max crawling in the ceiling rafters again. For a bounty item, I'm picturing either she brings a magic lamp that she stole from Shantae or Risky Boots' collection, or maybe that pretty parasol from her restored human form in Seven Sirens. I can see both Jax and Roddy Tops getting an invite and their parent companies being absolutely chill with it. This next one is the least likely, mostly because it's from a big company and a popular franchise. So for that reason, I've chosen a side character on purpose. But I will explain it. So, funny bunny and cute zombie, meet the terrifying, the tyrannical, the intimidating, the not to be messed with, the absolute unit, Badger? Purely basing this off of the cartoon, I'm unfamiliar with the game she originated from, since Sega themselves seem to deny that it exists, and seem to forget that this character exists. But she absolutely is one of my favorite characters from the Sonic franchise for how funny she is in the Sonic Boom cartoon, which is way more intelligent comedy than you would think.
Though personally, I find the grim knowledge that our freedoms are slowly eroding enough to keep me awake at night.
But Six the Badger, while not as well known as any other Sonic characters, would absolutely make a great pick for any poker table. Of all the Sonic characters, she's the only one I can see playing poker, and that the parent company would be okay if she said something crazy, since it's kind of in her character to say that. I agree that it's a long shot. It's the least likely on this table, but I absolutely think she would make a great poker player. She has skill in hand-to-hand combat, and looks like she would beat you up for saying the wrong thing. She has the look of a woman who would absolutely wail the tar out of you if you tried to cheat. And she's not going to be shy about it neither. She'd probably fold the most and bluff the least, because she's aware that the cards are sheep that follow the royals, so she'd be the one to wait for a good hand and then stick with it. I could also see her mentioning the history of playing cards being related to tarot cards. And since she distrusts technology and authority, I can imagine that she would be questioning anything that the others told her about their weird worlds. She's the sort of person that needs receipts in triplicate in order to believe anything. And while it would be easy to mischaracterize her as just a paranoid conspiracy theorist, what works about her, both in the cartoon and as someone to play poker with, would be the fact that she is naturally practical and suspicious. She's going to be the person who, when you mention a simile, mention how unrealistic to real life it is.
But who's laughing now?
You?
Why would I be laughing? This isn't funny. You got a sick sense of humor.
Plus, if you really wanted to be clever and outfox player expectations, have a bit of code where if a story starts to repeat in a single session, have her be the one to call it out and say, "Wait a minute, are you a robot in disguise? You already told us that story." We'd obviously need Hedgehog Village from the Sonic Boom cartoon as the cosmetic for the inventory once you collect her deck and table. Plus, you could either have her dress up in that nice dress she wore to a nice function from one episode, or you could have her dress up like her robot doppelganger, since she thinks it's Halloween and that's what scares her, is technology coming up to life and taking over people's jobs. Plus, if anyone does ask why Sonic doesn't invite her to any parties, have her reply that she does get invites, but she assumes it was his pod person doppelganger, because there's no way Sonic would ever drive a car. You know, with all these new franchises to the Poker Night series, we need someone to bridge the gap from the old Poker Night games to the new one. And since we know that Heavy was introduced by Engineer to the inventory, that means any of the mercs are available. But we need someone to contrast the people we already have at our table. So who's calm and sarcastic? Viva la France! Given that Valve brought back rewards for Poker Night 1 when they did the remaster, I could see them being down for an official crossover again. And Spy brings the sardonic wit you need for our last chair, calm but sarcastic. My other suggestion for this position would be Telltale's Guybrush Threepwood, but I have no idea who owns the rights to him right now, and I'm not sure they do either. Both in the canon and in fanworks, he's always the most professional, the one who's most straight-laced, the one who's going to be rolling his eyes at the stupidity around him. And given all of the energetic gremlin energy we already have at our table, I could see him being extremely upset. Gaming-wise, he'd probably be the smartest, only bluffing if he thinks he can get away with it, and folding on weak cards. As for conversation, I can see him raising an eyebrow at all of the weird, wacky, wild stuff that everybody else has to report on, and I could imagine him being reluctant to share information about him personally, but I could also see him spilling dirt on any of the other mercs that they ask about, because as a spy his job is to collect information. Plus, given that he's always trying to impersonate other people, I could imagine him trying to analyze the table and try to do impressions of them, which would make for some funny conversations. Because whenever someone does an impression of you in front of you, your immediate reaction is, I don't sound like that. And everyone else's immediate reaction is, yes, actually, you do. Given that he's the most grounded merc, I could see him working well with our more energetic table. I don't think the TF2 barracks are that different from the normal look of the inventory, so for getting the table and deck assembled, I think what you should do is you should have Mercenary Park from the Jungle Inferno update. Not sure what cosmetic they would give Spy. I could see them either giving him the look of one of the robots from Man vs. Machine, or maybe a fedora and trench coat to make him look like classic Spy from the 1960s. Actually, if you gave him the right hat, he looks almost like Chief Inspector Jacques Clouseau. And absolutely none of you young people know who Clouseau is, do you? For Spy's bounty, maybe the Dead Ringer watch or his butterfly knife?
If you managed to kill them, I assure you they were not like me.
I feel great about these 4 players at our table, but I feel like there's something missing. Oh, a dealer! Organized in the inventory to introduce GLaDOS as the dealer, controlling the tech to deal cards to everybody, and adding her own conversation starters and insults. But who do we know who could insult everyone and controls technology? Oh wait, sorry, there's a page of my script missing. Let me just... Wait, no, that's just gobbledygook. And that's just a heart, next to a message that says, "Did you miss me?" So, my PC may or may not be cursed, but yes, I'm going to pick Monica as my dealer. And given that Jax, Styx, and Spy all hate technology, Shio has the majority of the table intimidated, plus she doesn't have a physical presence to attack, which means that they can't intimidate her back. And I would love to see her start by saying, "Did you miss me?" to the player, or trying to encourage the player. I would love to see Monica making terrible poetry about everybody's faults and terrible hands. Given that she talks sweetly to the player, I'm imagining the other players are going to accuse her of cheating or stacking the deck, but despite her many faults, fair play is something she believes in. Plus, she can just point out that there's no camera in the table looking up at the cards, so she couldn't tell what she's dealing even if she wanted to. Also, I'm imagining because the inventory keeps tabs on everybody to make sure that they pay their tabs on time, I'm imagining Monica would just start flipping through the files, seeing what embarrassing secrets she could mention to the players in order to try and get them off their game, make them more likely to visually show how badly they're bluffing. Now I know what you're all thinking. Didn't she get deleted at the end of her game? How is she here at the inventory? And I'm sure that's an excellent question that will have no answer whatsoever. But given that most of our table have survived even dumber things, and the fact that our one character is a literal zombie and shouldn't be alive, I doubt anybody's going to complain that Monica being deleted is going to stop her from showing up. Plus, given her interests, I would love to see her get conversations started about classic literature and poetry. I'd love to hear what classic bits of poetry or literature that the characters love or despise, because you know it's going to be different for each character. Of course, we're going to need the Glitchy Literature Club to go with our glitchy deck and glitchy table, plus either a glitch look for Monica, or, more likely, some form of costume, like maybe dress her up in that angel costume she has for the Halloween promo image. I could see the company being down, but I'm not actually sure, since it appears to be only modders that are trying to resurrect Monica. But for a bounty, I don't know. I could see her having a book of the club's literature assembled, but I could also imagine her giving a floppy disk that contains her essence for the player to win. At least they better win it, because she's not going home with anybody else. You can keep this floppy disk in a safe place. And then we see how young the characters are, because one of them is going to ask, what's a floppy disk? Oh no, I'm going to have to explain this to the younger audience members. You see, stupid children. So yeah, that's my picks for a Poker Night 3 roster. Jax to be the annoying loudmouth with the unreadable face, Roddy Talks to be our chaotic gremlin, Styx to the badger to be the intimidating one, and Spy to be the calm, sarcastic one, and Monica to be the dealer. What do you think of my roster? What characters would you personally want to see in Poker Night 3 that you think are both possible and likely to give good, fun conversations? I'm so glad you showed back up at the Cult Gaming Oasis. Now remember, it's a desert out there. Stay frosty.